Welcome back everybody, Business here, and today's video will specifically be focused on high explosive shells versus armor piercing and when to use them. I've gone over this briefly in the previous video regarding the Kuma and Phoenix, but I wanted to expand upon the topic to include the various classes. I'll be avoiding the unnecessary technical details, and frankly, knowing all that is great, but it won't make you a better player until the following is understood and practiced. For whatever reason, there seems to be quite a bit of misinformation and just flat out bad advice when it comes to how to use the ammo types. I keep seeing accusations of hacks when a cruiser annihilates another cruiser with armor piercing, or when a battleship single salvos a destroyer with high explosive. Another awful trend is battleships only shooting high explosive at other battleships, which tells me a lot about the player's understanding of the mechanics or lack thereof. There are two and only two rules to strictly adhere to when it comes to ammo selection. Otherwise, there are too many variables in any situation, such as what ship you're using, what you're shooting at, the distance, angle, hell, even your luck in the match so far. It's complicated, but at the same time, it's not beyond simplification to where new players can't pick up the game and learn quickly. So the first rule is that as a destroyer versus a battleship, or battleship versus a destroyer, you shoot high explosive. A destroyer is utterly ineffective shooting AP at a battleship, but can thoroughly break a battleship player's concentration if he's constantly getting hit with high explosive for 800, 1,000, 3,000 damage depending on tier and whatnot, on top of fires and the potential threat of torpedoes. This is exponentially more difficult for the battleship player if you're not spotted while he's under fire. You're causing him to do more work, consider more solutions, be more prone to mistakes, or just giving up. We've all seen that person, or unfortunately been that person, who gets in that panic state and ends up getting slaughtered. Now the second rule is, as a battleship, you shoot whatever the hell you have loaded against the destroyer with high explosive to be loaded next. By that I mean if you have the chance to shoot rounds that are ready, you do it. It doesn't matter if it's AP, AG, whatever, you just need to get the shots out. You don't load HE and wait another 30 seconds for an opportunity that may not present itself. With HE likely knocking out multiple modules on the destroyer, you can render an enemy player defenseless with a single hit of HE from a battleship. I've been on both ends of that where 2-3 modules or weapon systems were knocked out by a single hit. Hopefully you have friends around with a higher rate of fire or rounds at the ready to neutralize the threat completely, but it's one part of the reason why HE is vastly superior to AP against destroyer. The other part is over-penetration. And on that subject, there are 5 possibilities of what can happen when your shells hit a target. The first is bounce. The angle was too great for the shells to penetrate the armor. These can count as hits, but will do no damage. The second, and this gets a bit more complicated here, is over-penetration. This means that the angle was good enough to penetrate the armor, but nothing was damaged as it passed through the ship, so you'll do minimal damage, usually about 10% of the max shell damage. In this type of scenario, you're overmatching your gun to your target, so you need to switch to HE or aim for a more vital area of the ship. This is why you'll see with certain battleships and whatnot, you'll have a, say, 1,000 damage flat rate. That's 10% of, say on the Congo for instance, the Citadel damage, maximum damage there is 10,000 for armor piercing. If you're overpenning your target, you're going to do 1,000 damage. So you can hit with 5 shells and do 5,000 damage. But now with the penetration, you have a similar situation where you penetrated the armor, you had the right angle, and you can knock out modules. Like if you shoot in Iowa, for instance, in the rear as he's turning away from you, you can knock out his engines or his steering. It happens to any ship. Especially with the, say, the Japanese cruisers, for instance, they are highly prone to losing their gears or their steering gears or their engines, because when you're constantly turning away, you're exposing that vital part of your ship. And if they're using AP or actually in a lot of cases HE, they can knock out those vital modules. Now a Citadel hit is underneath the turrets, the boilers, the most crucial areas of a ship where it's the most heavily armored. Your shell penetrated and it will roll the maximum damage. So again, to use the Congo as an example, it can roll a maximum shell damage for armor piercing of 10,000, and that's exactly what you'll get. So if you hit 3 citadels but no other hits, you'll roll 30,000
damaged. Scout returning to ship.
We've destroyed an enemy cruiser. Enemy battleship foundered.
And then there's detonation, where you basically ammo rack somebody. You penetrated their ammo storage and you turned them into the HMS Hood and just blew them apart. It's truly frightening to see that happen to your tier 10 battleships, or really any of the ships, but you're going to most commonly see that at low tier with the cruisers and especially the destroyers. Now, there's just a few more guidelines, not necessarily rules, because they bend every which way, to also consider. An enemy that is moving away or towards you should be hit with high explosive. While I've been able to citadel tier 10 battleships and less through the front or rear of the ship in certain situations where their front or rear was square with my turrets, there's still the opportunity to get a citadel in that scenario, but it's more often than not gonna happen. Okay, so that guideline was just that 90-degree angle if somebody's charging right at you or going away from you. This one still applies, because even if they're at an angle, you should still shoot HE, because you're going to bounce, most likely. If you can hit some flat part luckily, or just get any type of lucky damage roll, that's great, but chances are it's going to be far less consistent than shooting HE at an enemy that is coming at you at an angle. This was a big problem when 3.1 launched. As far as the armor changes were concerned, cruisers suddenly became damn near invincible when they would charge a battleship. A lot of people just stuck strictly to armor piercing, and because of that they suffered. And in that scenario, it's still a highly effective strategy for cruisers is to angle their armor. And just yesterday I've bounced a number of rounds in my Omaha and Murmansk against higher tier battleships, just because I was angled, and if they used HE, I would have been wiped out immediately.
We've destroyed an enemy cruiser.
Bullseye.
And then it comes down to carriers. Everybody has their own kind of take on this. Personally, for me, I shoot high explosive until they're on fire, then I switch to AP. I tend to ready the opposite type that I fire each time to keep the fires active and damage inflicted at maximum. This truly is highly situational, but the most important factor is just getting that carrier on fire. So in conclusion, there are other mechanics at play, but I believe these are the most important factors to get up and running or just improving your game. Enable replays, watch other videos, pay attention to your target and what did or didn't work. Hell, go play co-op. Battleships are at the mercy of dispersion more than any other class, so you will absolutely have terrible games, but you only need a couple things to line up to devastate an opponent and change the tone of a match. These same mechanics apply to destroyers and cruisers as well, and especially with cruisers, you can practice these mechanics far more often than you can with the battleship. I hope the video was helpful. Thank you for watching and good luck out there.